On Sundays we do our public rides, 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, 90-minute round trips up to Kahe Point and back.
The museum pieces are just for everybody to enjoy.
What's your most popular item to sell here?
Whistles. And then also from there, then we have a lot of little different engines. We have pullback trains or engines, and they seem to be very popular. But the whistles are the big item. Thank you very much for coming out and riding with us today.
Definitely.
The ride will be a very mellow, and if you close your eyes and really think back to the earlier days of the cane industry and during World War II, yeah, you're going to get a very strong feel of the clickety-clack and the trade winds. And there's a section out beyond Kalaeloa Boulevard, in my opinion anyway, from there out until you hit Ko'olina properties. There's a section there that's pretty much unchanged over the years. And you really can get a feel of, wow, it must have been really something to come through here when that was all just sugarcane for as far as the eye could see. But for the most part, no, it should be a pretty safe 15-mile-an-hour trip. You're going to have two major crossings and one protected crossing. And the flagman and the brakemen at each crossing, they get down, they stop traffic, give the engineer the signal, all safe to proceed, and then they go. The brakeman's duties before the ride are to do brake tests and to inspect the cars to make sure they're safe. And then when the ride is in process, they basically are on the leading end of the train, both ways. They make a switch out at the halfway point. And their job is also to watch for changes in the track. Yeah, they're always looking for changes that could be serious or safety concerns.
Now that we've had some time to learn about the history and the Hawaiian Railway Society, now we're going to be fortunate enough to get a short tour. Would you mind showing us this train?
Not at all. This is locomotive number 302. This is a Whitcomb locomotive built in 1944 for the Navy. It's a switcher. It's a diesel electric. It's got 2 diesel engines, 1 engine right inside here with a generator right behind it, and it goes down underneath with electric cables, and it drives the axles down below. Drives one axle, and then the other axle's done like a steam engine with connecting rods.
These are the passenger cars that we use for Sunday rides at 1 and 3 o'clock on Sunday, and also for any charters. They're available 7 days a week. They're actually built on old Navy flatbed cars that would have been used to haul ordnance and material, and then the Society built these bodies on them, put bench seats inside, and they're actually fairly comfortable. They're sprung, so they don't ride too rough.
Up next, join me for a special treat as we take a ride back in history on Oahu 302. We do ask that you remain seated for the entire ride. The train does stop at grade crossings and can lurch back and forth. We don't want anybody knocked off their feet. And as soon as we get the rest of our crew aboard and these very last passengers, we'll be underway. And my name is Jennifer. I'm your narrator today. I'll be giving you the history of the ORNL, the Oahu Railway and Land Company, as well as some Hawaiian history and natural history along the way. All the railroad crossing signs were originally written in Hawaiian. They read Akahele Ike Ka'aahi, which means look out for the fire car. And if you've ever seen an old steam locomotive going down the track billowing steam and smoke as it goes along, you can understand why they thought those trains were on fire. Because this is a coral pit. This whole part of the island has a thick layer of coral underneath the topsoil, which is why it is called the Ewa Coral Plain. In 1888, King Kalakaua signed a franchise granting Dillingham the right to build a stretch of track from Honolulu to the Pearl River Lagoon. This 15-mile stretch of track opened 1 year later officially as the ORNL. And to celebrate that day, which also happened to be the King's birthday, they gave more than 4,000 people free round-trip rides that day. When we get to this crossing, the train will stop and allow our crew to get off the train, go out into the street and stop the traffic for us, allowing us to proceed safely. hand, leaving him a pinky and a thumb. After the accident, they gave him on a job as a security guard on the trains that traveled down the windward side of the island. It was his job to make sure that as the train slowed down or stopped, to make sure that children were not jumping on the train for a free ride, or they were not stealing the sugar cane out of the cars for a snack. He'd be hanging off the train, waving at him to get off the train, get off the track, stay away from the sugar cane. And the kids thought this was really funny, this little gesture this guy did. So they adopted this gesture and used it to each other as a signal, meaning it's okay to try to jump on the train. Go for it, because Hamana's not on duty today. So this okay or go for it symbol from the children on the windward side went worldwide, and now we know it as the shaka sign. It is not uncommon at all to see turtles and spinner dolphins, plenty of whales in the neighborhood as well.
We are now at the halfway point, which is the beautiful Kahe Point of Oahu. I'm in the Locomotive Oahu 302. We're taking off with the engineer of today's trip, Willie. Hope you guys enjoy the ride.
You're looking at the throttle.
Okay, and then that's controlling the speed of the diesel.
Yeah.
That also controls your forward speed.
Forward. I have a forward and reverse lever here.
Okay, how do we stop?
Right there's the engine brake, and I got my. This is the whole train.
Okay. So this is making the cars and
Cars and the engine, and this is the engine by itself. That's part of the brake system there.
It's like an accumulator.
Yeah, on 423s underneath. This one, I don't know, for some reason they have it on top.
One of the real tricks and one of the difficult things is getting it stopped, especially getting it stopped. Two things, where you want it to get stopped and somewhat smoothly, because it can be really jerky, or you stop and you're 2 cars beyond it or 2 cars beyond it. But what we do, there's a brake stand up in there that you regulate, and what it does is when you start up, each of the box cars or each of the cars has a big tank. And it's on the other side of the thing, but the tank builds up a reservoir to about 65 pounds of air, and then the brakes are actually applied by when you release the air in these hoses. The 65 pounds push the brakes on, the brake shoes on here.
Yeah, it's the only hardest part is just the braking. Because every car you got about a gap, about just like that. So if you don't bring all the train in, then it's gonna have a hard bang in between the cars.
In between the cars.
Yeah.
It's pretty out here.
Yeah. Beach driving to Waikiki every day.
website, hawaiianrailway.com.